Partly cloudy tonight, a low 58 to 70. And tomorrow stays nice. Sunshine mixed with clouds again, the high 83 to 88. Sun, clouds with brief showers on Sunday, a little bit breezier and not as warm with a high of 78 to 82. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Maggie Johnson.
All right, 20 minutes after 8 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. When I was a kid, I used to read the comics from the newspaper. Not the comic books, but the comics. And there was a comic strip you might remember called The Family Circus. Was that what it was called?
Yes.
It was like a one-panel thing.
Yeah, I love that, by Bill Keane.
Oh, thank you. And I remember there was one where the mom had a different envelope for everything. Like the paycheck would come in and, $2 goes into this envelope and that's going to pay for Johnny's, milk money for the week. And there was always money for something. And I was, okay, when I grow up, I'm going to have an envelope for everything.
Yeah.
That way, whenever I need money, there's the envelope. And you can't take money from the other envelope.
No.
The reality is, you always take money from the other envelope.
Yes.
I don't really have any envelopes. I never actually did that. Aron Levine is on the phone. I may be mispronouncing his name. I'll find out in a second. He's the head of Merrill Edge at Bank of America and serves as a national trustee for the Boys and Girls Club of America. And he is indeed talking about retirement savings, the challenges that we as Americans face when saving for retirement. And since he works with young people, I'm guessing that he delivers this message to them, which is where you should start. Although the Family Circus had a good idea, it was kind of hard to stick to that whole idea.
Yeah.
Aron, good morning, Aron. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Good morning. That's a great idea. I love that Family Circus idea. We should get that out there more.
Yeah. The only problem is that the money that was for vacations nowadays goes to the car broke down. Where do you get the money for vacation? And then you end up borrowing it, and then now you got another bill. So, Aron, how do you pronounce your last name?
You had it right, Levine.
Levine,
so
okay. All right, well, thank you. And where are you calling from?
I'm actually in Atlanta this morning.
In Atlanta.
Nice.
Love it. We just drove through Atlanta a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So thank you for being on the air with us. Yeah, is it any different now than it was when I was a kid reading comics in the 1960s? So that's a long time ago. Is it any different, or is it pretty much the same?
Well, it's not different in terms of the challenge, and I think the need to be, coming up with different envelopes and saving. I think the difference, of course, is maybe the good news is we're all living longer. So now that envelope's got to get bigger and bigger if you're saving for retirement, because you got more time to think about than probably when we were kids, 30, 40 years ago. So that's one of the major differences is, how long we're all going to live, and the need for the savings becomes even more important.
So as we save for retirement, are there any safeguards in place so that we can't be tempted to use it for a vacation or that kind of thing?
Look, obviously everyone's family budget is theirs to manage, right? So that's the challenge. People have to have the sort of personal discipline to do it, and many Americans do. Many of your listeners, I'm sure, do. But unfortunately, too many are not having that discipline, and they're creating, the challenge of putting off their savings and their, enjoying their lifestyle today, which we all want to do. But the reality is, it's really important to keep that discipline and save and put that money aside and not borrow it for something else. Because otherwise, when you're going to need it, it just won't be there.
If people have made some investments hoping that will pan out for their retirement years, and then all of a sudden they lose all that money and there isn't anything that they gain from that, once they're retired, can they do anything to try to increase their wealth?
Well, look, obviously we've gone through a difficult period over the last few years, and as investments, but over the long term, keeping your money invested has always paid off, and certainly, you hear, great investors like Warren Buffett talk about that all the time, and so, I think the important thing is if you're investing, is you have to have a strategy and a plan, and you really have to be thoughtful about what you're investing in and why, and what your time frame is, and then obviously as there's dips. You can't get out too soon either, because you have to have confidence in a longer-term plan. If you do take a setback, attempting to then make it up quickly and adding your risk profile is usually not the right idea, because then you're potentially compounding the issue. So I think the best safeguards start with how you're setting up a plan and really thinking about what you're investing in terms of what kind of risk you're taking, and either educating yourself through online capabilities like we might have at Merrill Edge, or talking to an advisor that we may have. So really educating on how much risk are you taking, and given your time frame for savings, what's the best way for you to approach it.
Is there a way to calculate the risk, or is it better to sit down with a professional?
Yeah, look, I think it's always good to sit down with a professional when you're talking about investments and understanding risk return. There's certainly enormous amounts of information available these days, and you can educate yourself, but quite frankly, it's a wide range of choices. Just think about the number of, if you would, mutual funds, how many different funds there are, how many different types of investments there are. Unless you're spending a great deal of time, and most people don't have that kind of time, speaking to a professional is a good idea, at the very least, just to get educated.
Are the young people in their 20s and 30s more into doing it themselves and making sure they have some kind of savings plan set up, as opposed to thinking, well, if I need help, my mom and dad are there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. It's interesting. We did a report called the Merrill Edge report, and we actually found that the younger generations are right now the most stressed about saving for retirement, right?
Oh,
and of
really?
course and you think, well, they have the most time, they should actually feel pretty good about it. But I think that's a condition of the economy that we've come through and the challenges. And so the good news is the millennials and the younger generations are truly thinking about it, probably more than we all were, when we were back reading the comics. But we were, so they're thinking about it, they are reaching out. They do use online availability, and they're sort of comfortable educating. But quite frankly, they also at some point realize they need help, and they seek other advice. But the question is, do they have the ability to make that savings priority and then still deal with other things like student debt, for example? So that's one of the challenges. How do you handle the immediate term, that you got to pay down debt, and you have to sort of make sure you don't get extended that way, and at the same time try to save for the longer term.
So is it the same approach or a similar approach to dieting, where you just kind of take it one day at a time and you have a regimented thing and you just stick to that regiment?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels, right, in terms of the discipline. I think the planning process is probably even more important when it comes to your financial health as opposed to your physical. You really have to sit down and think about, how many different, what are your goals and priorities, and what are you saving for? So you made a point, and it really actually ends up being a very good analogy with your envelopes, because someone, at any life stage, there's a lot of different competing priorities. So am I today trying to pay down debt? Am I trying to save for vacation? Am I saving for my kids' education or my own? And I'm trying to save for retirement. So when you have all those competing priorities, it becomes so much more important to sort of prioritize and to think through a plan for how do you save for the different pieces.
Yeah.
And therefore, plus a longer time frame. I mean, hopefully it doesn't take 40 years to lose the 10 pounds, although for some of us it does.
Right.
Since October 18th through the 21st, through the 24th is National Save for Retirement Week. Can anybody go into Merrill Edge or Bank of America and sit with a financial professional to see where they're at and possibly open an account?
Absolutely. So what's great about what we have through Merrill Edge and Bank of America is you can go online to merrilledge.com and, again, get all that great education that I talked about, as well as open account, or walk into one of our financial centers and talk to someone in person and have a conversation about your planning and begin the process. So we have financial advisors now in over 2,000 financial centers around the country, and certainly next week's a great time to do it, given it is National Save for Retirement Week, but certainly any time, any week is a good time to start. So, if next week works, great. If it's the following week, we'll still be there ready to talk to people.
Yeah, and I would suggest that. I mean, I love our radio hosts who give financial advice. They give out some awesome advice. But the truth is, if you can't sit across the desk from somebody and have that person look at your specific situation,
yes,
the general information you get from a radio host is going to always be simply general, so that everybody can benefit from it. Good information, Aron. Thank you for being on the air with us. I know you've got to run. Have a great weekend, and the website we leave the listeners with is
merrilledge.com.
Oh, easy enough. merrilledge.com. Thank you, Aron. That was great. We'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. More details out on the deadly bombing in Afghanistan, which our military calls a mistake.
U.S. Special Operations analysts were reportedly gathering intelligence on a Doctors Without Borders facility because they believed it was being used by a Pakistani operative to coordinate Taliban activity.
Fox Radio's Rachel Sutherland.